That's a good feeling right there. Now we go through all the normal stuff. Oh, ahoy, Buccaneers and Buccarinas. My name is Captain Yugioh and welcome back to another video. Today I just as you can see, I've been kind of busy lately, so that's why the video's probably coming out later than you might be expecting. Ooh. I wasn't busy at all. I was just doing things. I was just playing Duel Links. So baby, let's talk about it. Before anything else, don't forget to like the video, comment down below if you like the content, subscribe to the channel, click the bell. We do Overwatch videos on Tuesdays, Hearthstone videos on Thursdays, and Yugioh videos on Fridays. So last week I kind of talked about a little bit about rush duels and such, how that's an upcoming new format. Speed duels isn't terribly different from it, but it's, you know, it's got its own little things to it as well. But this week I want to talk about Duel Links because that's another alternate format, sort of in that same vein, where it still works along the same lines with the same little smaller field. But it's also really cool because it's actually got its own little app to it and such. And, well, it's a phone-based app, so take that for what you will, honestly. So let's talk about some of the positives with Duel Links. Duel Links has like this entire little system. It's a lot simpler than the game. It doesn't have like all these crazy strategies that kind of go, you know, into it, and like how the normal game usually has like because it's got a bigger field, it's got all this stuff. Right now Duel Links is just up to the Synchro era because they actually have delayed adding cards into the game in order to help promote a completely new format and a friendlier environment for a lot more of a casual player base most of the time. But now it's actually gotten to the point where there's actually a lot more recognition because it's also been in the World Championship for the past, I think, 2 or 3 years or so. There's a huge cast of characters to pick from because the main appeal of Duel Links is actually the ability to not only get access to these different characters, but also employ skills. And skills are basically kind of like, if you watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns, they're kind of like in that vein. In fact, Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns was kind of done to promote kind of like alternate formats like speed duels and like, I guess not really rush duels, but like Duel Links basically, where you have a smaller three monster zone, 3 spell and trap kind of board, and then you have skills involved, and every different character within the game has, well, I have their own different skills. There's a few skills that kind of just go across the board and help out everybody in some capacity, but you still have to earn these skills and the like. But there are certain characters with certain skills that are particular to that character that actually help to employ different strategies and the like. So that's a really neat aspect of the game. You also only start with 4,000 life points as opposed to the normal 8,000 life points as you would in the Master Rules game, or what it would be a Master Duel, I guess, at that point. So it's a little bit of a quicker pace to it at that point. So you end up with these pretty interesting situations where it's like, you know, you're playing through Duel Links or something and you're just kind of like, oh, hey, I can spend like, you know, maybe 5 minutes or so in a game because I'm not having to like go play through all these different combos. I'm not having to lower my opponent's life points down to 0 from 8,000. Now it's only like 4,000. My opponent's not drawing a bunch of things. My opponent's not destroying everything that I have. Mostly. Duel Links is more centered around the battle phase because, well, there's not really a main phase 2, which means that the turns are shorter. There's a lot of cards that are actually in Duel Links that actually promote more attack and defense adjustments, help keep things from being destroyed by battle, help lower the attack points, help increase the attack points, and a lot of this stuff is still fairly relevant even to this day when we come to a whole slew of different things. And there are so many different strategies now that I've actually seen a lot of major success in Duel Links that never saw any success within the realms of the regular game. Like, for instance, Amazons were really strong in Duel Links at one point. Vampires actually were really strong in Duel Links at one point. Right now, we're looking at like a resurgence of gladiator beasts. For hire monsters. The monsters for hire were actually really, really strong in Duel Links at one point, and that's kind of crazy to think about. So some little perks about Duel Links is that because of the way the format is set up, there's a chance for decks and archetypes that never really saw major play within the realms of the big game to have a chance to shine within Duel Links. I mean, heck, I have an Aromage deck, and I've never built Aromages in the regular game, but like in Duel Links, I was able to like build up a pretty decent Aromage deck, and I've actually been able to like play on ranked and do decently well. I'm not saying I went and played ranked super hard, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Another cool thing about Duel Links that is really different from the TCG is actually their Forbidden and Limited list, which, yes, yeah, they still have a Forbidden and Limited list, very much like the regular game. However, they don't have any Forbidden cards at the moment because they've actually implemented a unique Forbidden and Limited list, where now, instead of like, because Duel Links is such a smaller format, the decks are actually only about like 20 cards. You only have 20 cards in your main deck, and you only get like 5 or 6 cards in your extra deck, which is really, really small, but it also, again, it helps to kind of pick up the pace of these games. But it also really affects the way the approach goes into the limited list, because it's like, well, okay, you only have space for, you know, up to 30 cards at the absolute most. You know, even having like 3 cards in a deck is a lot to work around. So in Duel Links, it's kind of like, because the card counts are so low, the chances that if limiting and semi-limiting worked like they did in the card game, you could easily just build a 20 card deck of just a bunch of limited cards and it wouldn't even matter. So what they did is they actually have the Forbidden and Limited list, where they actually have tiers on the different limited cards, where there's a limited one where it's like, okay, you can, there are a bunch of cards in the limited one section where you can take any of those cards and play with any of those cards, but you can only play with one copy of any of those cards. So for instance, they have like, say they have like tier list on like limited 1. There's like a section of it that's limited 1. What that means is basically any of the cards in the limited 1 section, you're only allowed to play one copy of any one of those cards in your deck, and you can't play any other copies. So for instance, you wouldn't be able to play Restructor Revolution alongside Woodland Sprite, because both of those are on the limited 1 list. You only are able to play one copy of those cards, and you wouldn't be able to use one, and you wouldn't be able to use both of them. You'd have to pick between one or the other. And that's a really unique part of it, because then they also have like a limited 2 list that does the same thing, only you can have 2 copies of a card, or you can have like a mix of the 2 cards. If they're both happen to be on the limited 2 list, you can mix one, or, you know, have a copy each of those cards. There's actually going to be a change here where they're going to have a limited 3 list where you'll only have 3 copies between all of these different cards. So it's actually been really interesting to kind of like see them shape this format in a very different way and address these different issues in a uniquely different way. And it almost feels like it's like something you could almost say is like, well, gee, I wonder if you could implement that into something like Speed Duels or Rush Duels, or heck, even the main card game. But then that does, you know, then you get into some sort of complicated stuff where it's just kind of like, well, gee, does that work? Can that work? How do you implement that? You know, it gets complicated, but it's an interesting idea, and it's nice to see them like implement that successfully in Duel Links. So, what's the problem with Duel Links? Is there an actual issue with Duel Links? I mean, it sounds like gameplay-wise it seems pretty simple, and it just seems like it's a good old time. What's the problem with Duel Links? There's this tiny little problem where you gotta pay. You gotta pay to really make it work. It's like, you know how you can play Hearthstone technically for free, but like in order to be really, really good and get really like a lot of the cool stuff out of Hearthstone, you either have to play for a long time and do a lot of different things, and then build up a certain currency, and then spend that currency in order to obtain better cards usually. Well, Duel Links is pretty much the same thing, except worse. The main bulk of the currency in Duel Links comes down to gems, which is the only thing that you can really buy with, you know, real life money, essentially. I mean, technically you can buy packs for real life money, but gems is also kind of the way you can, like, get packs, essentially. I think usually it's like money goes into gems, which then gets you packs. But you can also directly buy packs, so there's not really a point to gems, but there is a point to gems. I'm trying to think about how this all works again. Basically, the long and short of it is that you are able to put real-life money into the game, and if you really want to be competitive with Duel Links, you kind of have to. I mean, me as a free player who hasn't, you know, contributed anything to the Duel Links economy in terms of real-life money and the like, because my soul has already been bought out by Overwatch and Hearthstone and the actual card game. The thing is about Duel Links is that you really do have to put some sort of investment into it to get some of the better cards, because like the real card game, a lot of the way you can get these cards is by buying packs from the store, or buying, you know, I guess you can't really buy boxes, but you can buy a large assortment of packs, and you're trying to go through a box. And the way they sell off the boxes in stores, that they'll actually have like a box, you know, a box, but they'll have the box up, and you're able to get different cards of different rarities, ranging from common to ultra rare, at different quantities within the box. So, for instance, like if you're trying to go for an ultra rare card that's at 1 copy throughout the box, and the box has like 200 packs, well, out of 200 packs, basically, you're only going to get 1 copy of that card. Very different from how that works in the normal game, but that's because they're able to, like, mass produce and mass print these cards, whereas in the digital realm, there's not really a printing thing involved, so they can, they gotta, like, make sure they limit it in some capacity so they'll be able to get, you know, more boxes. And it's like, well, how do you get more boxes and such? Well, let's say, you know, box is 200 packs in Duel Links. You go through all those packs, and then it's like, ah, well, gee, you get the card you want after, like, pack 50 or something. You don't have to dig through another 150 packs if you don't want to. If you're just trying to get that one card, you actually can reset the box, which will reset the box back to the full 200 packs, give you all those cards available at the same ratios as it started, as if it's a brand new box, as if it was just there, and then you can buy through it again. But that's the thing, you kind of have to buy it using gems or real-life money. So if you don't have real-life money, then, well, you know, if you don't have real-life money, you shouldn't be playing Duel Links. Basically, you have to spend either gems or real-life money in order to do it. Well, in order to get gems, you either have to spend real-life money to get the gems, or you go through a bunch of the different quests, which, with the good thing about Duel Links is that the free-to-play market, it's got a good gem economy. Sort of. I say it's a good economy. Technically speaking, you can find like little bits of gems here and there, and like when you're dueling people, you'll be able to get coins, but coins don't convert to gems. Coins are kind of like their own thing entirely, which is good. I don't know why that is exactly. I mean, I know why that is, but I don't know why that is. Like, why can't you convert your coins into gems or something like that? But still looking at you, Gotcha Games. Maybe you got something to say about that. But in Duel Links' case, like, you get coins from dueling players, you get little stones, and these can help you trade out with the card trader so you can get very specific cards, but you can only get specific cards from the card trader, and you can't get stuff usually that's in the main packs anyway, so it seems kind of silly to kind of go back and forth. Never mind that you're basically trying to get gems, which you can't really find them through duels normally. Usually you have to complete like specific tasks, specific quests, which that allows you to go up in the stages, and you'll usually get like 50 gems. There's usually like a handout, you know, on a daily basis where eventually you'll get like a gem or something like that, or like, you know, 20 gems or 50 gems. Whenever a new box comes out, there'll always be 500 gems because they want you to buy 10 packs of the latest set so you can get invested in that, and then it's like, oh, hey, cool, I got 500 gems. Neat. I'm gonna go invest in that latest set, and then you get 10 packs, and then you don't get, like, the super cool card that you really wanted and stuff, or you don't get, like, a complete deck out of an archetype, and you're just like, well, gee, now what do I do? I gotta get more gems. This is just kind of the general problem with Duel Links, and that's not really to say that it's a negative, an absolute, like, negative, never play this game, it's horrible, it's trash or anything. Like, the game is fine. This is just something more of, like, this is what kind of comes along with it if you want to play the game to a certain degree. In my case, as a free player, that like I've been able to get by fine with Duel Links. I've got most of the characters unlocked. There's like a couple here and there that I don't have unlocked for one reason or another. I'm having to rely on, you know, a little bit of a random drop to show up in order to make things work. But at the same time, it's not like it's a necessity for me to like pay, you know, money to try and obtain cards to get better at the game. I don't have to go into the ranked system, which that's kind of its own set of problems. There have been people who've, you know, talked about the ranked system and like, I mean, let me be honest, the ranked system is like, I don't really know how to approach the ranked system most of the time. Like, I just hang out in bronze. I'm fine in bronze. Like, that's how uncompetitive I am with Duel Links. It's just, I will do it for the event stuff, and that's probably about it, because otherwise it's like, yeah, who needs it, right? So Duel Links is kind of like its own economic beast in terms of what it is and what it does. It's not an online simulator of the normal card game like I imagined a lot of people initially thought of it as, or if you're looking at it as like, you know, if you're along the outside and you're like, oh, hey, look at this Yu-Gi-Oh! Online dueling simulator. It's like, no, it's kind of like its own format. It's not like, you know, it's not a copy of the Master Rule TCG hand copy version, you know. It's not a hard copy of that. No, it's its own thing. It's its own format. It's got a whole different slew of things. It's implementing cards in various different ways. So it's something to keep in mind. It's like, you know, keep it separate. Keep it on the side there. So Duel Links, it's a thing that exists. Obviously, you kind of have to grind out a bunch of different things, but luckily there's plenty of different events that show up that can actually help you with that. There's also just generally pumping up your level and your different stages, getting a bunch of gems, saving your gems for a box that you really want to invest in so you can get an archetype that you really want to invest in, which, to be fair, nowadays, it's like now that a few years have kind of gone by, we've got tons of different archetypes that have opened up. We've got Elemental Heroes, we've got Destiny Heroes, we've got Lightsworns just showed up, there's 6 Samurai all over the place, you've got, you know, chunks stuff, you know, if you want to build a Yusei deck, if you want to build a Kiza deck, there's a ton of different things and a ton of different ways to build the deck that you want to build. So, and that all being said, what do you guys think? You know, what are your experiences with Duel Links? Let's have a talk about it. Talk to me about it down below, and otherwise, I will see you not in Duel Links, because I don't think I'm going to be playing that for a little bit, because the event just ended. Ugh. Now I gotta wait for the next event. Actually, I think there's another event right now, come to think of it. There's always another one!